morning and welcome to Cover 2 Cook. We're going to start off with recapping the NCAA's October 12th football. A lot of great games there. We're going to talk about the rest of the NCAA with our betting results. And then we'll move on to the NFL's must-watch games today and our bets. I do want to let you know we are recording this morning, so there is a football game going on in London. So bear down versus the Jaguars. But before I get too far, let me bring on my co-host, Mr. Tim Cook. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. Great Saturday. 4 games that went to overtime. I'm excited to talk about it. Let's get it going.
Well, we can start right off with the Texas-Oklahoma game. We said this was possibly the game of the day. Didn't end up to be, with Quinn Ewers returning and Texas just running all over Oklahoma. What do you think about this game?
You know, it seemed like Texas, that Ewers coming back, first game back after the oblique injury, he just looked a little rusty. Just didn't look very good, And Oklahoma just couldn't take advantage of it. They had 3 possessions in their Texas side of the field, and they only came up with 3 points. For a team that's an underdog like that, you got to take advantage of it. You got to get Texas on the rope early, and it just seemed like they just couldn't get anything going. They were talking maybe in the second half of bringing in Arnold, which they benched against Tennessee. They just couldn't get anything going. And Texas. They're going to get a true testing next week against Georgia.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I think the problem with Oklahoma is they just couldn't even keep the quarterback in the pocket, right? I mean, he was running for his life. He had 20 carries. I mean, so that you got to look at it as like there was some quarterback actual designed runs. Outside of that was just him escaping the pocket so they didn't get sacked. It just felt like it was going all Texas's way. That run where the running back runs it, fumbles it around the 3-yard line, it bounces in the end zone. Usually that ball would probably go out the back of the end zone.
Yeah.
Nope, it sits right there, and a wide receiver for Texas jumps on it, touchdown.
Yeah, right there, Anthony, you knew that it might not be Oklahoma's day.
Well, and I mean, they were already down points, but like even the commentator was like, if you're Oklahoma, you need things to bounce your way, and then when it's bouncing opposite way, you can just hang it up. It's done. It's over. And I mean, the running back for them, the Wisner or whatever, he came out with 118 yards off of 13 carries. 118 yards off of 13 times where he got the ball. Like, they ran the ball on him. Quinn Ewers didn't have to be amazing, but I definitely agree. He came out rusty, threw that interception, which people were like, oh my gosh, he's human. He can throw interceptions. And when he threw the interception, it was just but I do think even like throughout the game, he was not getting the ball down the field as far. He's making wide receivers come back for the ball. So hopefully he gets that rust built off, off this week coming up, because against a good Georgia team, I don't know. I mean, I still like Texas in that game. I think Texas is the more dominant defense and have the better playmakers than Georgia. But if Quinn Ewers doesn't play the way he's supposed to, I don't want to be this guy, but does Arch Manning kind of come in for that game?
Exactly. He might get, if it ain't going the way it is, he may get a quick hook to Arch Manning too.
And I don't think it's anything bad about Quinn Ewers. And I just want to bring this up. We've talked about this off air, but if Arch Manning would some way take over the starting position, everyone's saying it's Quinn Ewers' team. It's Quinn Ewers' team, right? Whatever. But if Arch Manning would take over, Quinn Ewers has another year. So he could transfer and go to another school after this year and be Arch's team. Now, if Quinn came back because of that injury, do you see Arch transferring? I mean, you can't. This 2 quarterback situation is good right now because they're winning and they're number 1 team, and it's all great. But when the offseason comes, there's going to be a lot of noise. So one of them's going to have to go, whether that's the NFL or that's to a different team. But it's a nice thing to have, because if you look at Georgia, if you go to your backup quarterback, I still think you're a better team. If you go to Arch Manning, you're still a better team than Georgia. So, But yeah, this was a great game. And then obviously the fair being there, and I did see that at the end of the game, they brought out a Baker Mayfield jersey, Oklahoma jersey, and put it on the middle of the field, and then they stabbed the Texas flag on it. I didn't understand that. A lot of the people were like, did Baker Mayfield say something? So now I'm going back to thinking, were you right? Was Baker Mayfield the one that stabbed it on the Texas? I don't know. I don't know.
No, I think you're right. I think it was Ohio State. It was Ohio State.
Yeah, I don't understand why they were so mad at Baker Mayfield. Unless
Huh.
he said something that nobody kind of, or, if
Right.
something happened, but yeah, they ripped up the jersey in the locker room and stuff like that. So it was like, it's been a long time since he played. Like he's been on multiple NFL teams, 3 teams or whatever. Like that's a long time since he's been in college. So I don't know where the hate's coming from for that one.
Right.
But that moves us to our next big game. This definitely the game of the night. People might say the Ole Miss OSU was, but Ohio State versus Oregon, number 2 versus number 3. And honestly, in that first half, it looked like it was going to be a shootout. But Oregon having the problems with the extra points was either going to be the reason that they were going to lose this game or they were going to win this game because it changed the points. It made it an odd number or not even, so it wasn't going to go to overtime. But what do you think about this game?
Oh, I thought this is we called it game of the night. It definitely was. They both games going back and forth, back and forth. Dylan Gabriel was just throwing dimes, throwing darts out there. Every time it seemed like they'd get down, they would make a run. That first possession, I don't know what you thought of that, but do you think that was a catch when that receiver? I was shocked that they didn't get to look at that catch.
I thought that was an interception.
And even the Terry McCauley on the call was like, why didn't they look at it? And I was shocked at it. I think if that would have happened in the NFL, they would definitely have looked at it. I don't understand why they didn't look at it on that catch right off the bat. And they go right down and score, and then they go back and they come down and score. They try to go for the 2-point conversion, they don't get it, and then they do the onside kick and they kick it right at that player, and that player could get out of the way. And then they get the ball back, they score. I thought this was an awesome game. It was back and forth, and then at the end, they take the lead. Oregon takes the lead at the end, and Will Howard, I don't know what he was thinking, or even the coaching staff was thinking when he ran the ball, and then they still had a timeout left, and they didn't get to call it, and then the game was over. It just seemed like I don't know why they didn't, talk to him before that possession and say, hey, we only have so much time, either get out of bounds or call a timeout. That was just a weird ending to that game, to a great game.
Yeah, I want to say I actually put that on Ryan Day. And why I say this on Ryan Day, because the play before it, the freshman pushes off and what's his name? Smith or whatever.
Yeah,
Jeremiah Smith. He pushes off, and then it's a penalty on the offense. Well, the clock starts immediately, and they let too much time go. Why didn't you call a timeout there unless you didn't know that? And that's the stuff that when Ohio State fans get mad and they're like, this is Ryan Day. I feel like Ryan Day just shits the bed sometimes, and it's like, bud, you are so lucky you're still there. You're so lucky. And I think that right there was kind of one of these ones where it was like, come on. Why didn't you call time out there? Now, him sliding, it's not a first down, so the clock doesn't stop.
Yeah, that's a new rule this year, that the clock doesn't stop after a first down.
No.
Hey, Ryan Day, you got to know that.
No, it does. It does. It stops after you get a first down, but he didn't get far enough to get a first down. Oh. So it didn't stop. But you got to call timeout. I mean, you got to, and the first downs, it only stops after first downs with 2 minutes to go. So that's where it's one of these things where it was like, why didn't I don't understand it. I don't know why you're not throwing it deep. I also think once you had the pass interference, at what point do you think a 5-yard out and then just kick the field goal?
Yeah.
Why not just do something like that? Why? I mean, when you see in the play they went deep. It's 6 seconds left. You just don't have enough time. Even if they catch it, they hold them up. And if I'm a defensive player, I'm trying to, when I come to make the tackle, stand you up. You can run me over all you want because that's more time it's going to take for you to keep going. But I'm going to stand you up so you can't fall to the ground, call timeout. It was poorly done. And I blame that on Ryan Day.
He's 1-5 against top 5 teams. Yeah.
Well, and on the other side of the ball, I think Dylan Gabriel started looking like the Dylan Gabriel that I remember before Oregon, right? Where you take off running. That run that he had into the end zone, amazing run. It was like, okay, you have the feet. You don't just have to be. But I think his decision-making, there was a play where they did a read option. They had the bubble open, but the end for Ohio State came off the end real quick, and he just threw the ball away. He didn't take a sack. He didn't force the ball. It was a perfect, it's like, this is the best situation because the defense beat you. and you just threw it away. You didn't lose yards. I just think the way Dylan Gabriel played in this game was the reason that they won this game. But yeah, it was definitely the game of the night. It was definitely everything that it was a heavyweight fight. It was just big punches after big punches, and comparable to the Ohio State or the Ole Miss and LSU, it wasn't. I didn't feel like there was like downtime. It was just constantly good runs or good passes and good defense, and it was a great game from start to finish. But I put this loss on Ryan Day. I think you got to be better at this. I think that freshman making the stupid mistake of, I mean, he was definitely pass interference. I mean,
Right.
but he's a freshman. He's 18 years old. Like, you can't. I mean, you can't depend on it. So
No. Well, they're not the freshman that's from Alabama, that Williams kid, that just is all world, So I mean that's hard too.
Yeah, but
like I say, he's 1-5. And the good thing too is we might be able to see this matchup again in the Big Ten championship.
oh, I think we are. I mean, after watching Penn State barely escape yesterday against a bad USC team, I think this is your two teams right here. I think Ohio State will beat the piss out of Michigan later in the year because now you got a little bit of that rival, and I just think they're a way better team. But on the Oregon side, who beats them? Who beats them in the Big Ten? So,
well, hey, we got Illinois in 2 weeks. You never know.
Yeah, Illinois had trouble with Purdue, so I don't know about that. But how did you think about the Holden, that wide receiver for Ohio State, getting tossed for spitting at the player? I mean, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell are you doing? And I just tried to think about, like, don't get me wrong, like, we understand that there's trash talk, and I played the game, so I've heard it. Like, but like spitting at a player, like you're going to get ejected. And it didn't help that the kid had a visor, the DB had a visor. So he literally looks at the ref, and the spit's just sitting there. Like it's not
that could have cost him the game, really.
And I thought it was, and
I
thought it was going to cost him the game, and I was like, "What are you doing?" But this is where Oregon, it wasn't. It was just okay to the next guy. Tez Johnson comes in and has a hell of a great game. That Terrence Ferguson got a little bit more attached to the game, but Evan Stewart, do we want to cover him? 7 catches for 149 yards. Like, you got to cover him. So, I do think
their back end of the got exposed big time. Ohio State did big time,
and
their DBs and they got exposed big time.
So last night, and maybe I've just been oblivious to the whole time, but I kind of forgot where Will Howard came from because they were like, "This is what an experienced quarterback does," and I'm like, "Where the hell did he come from?" And this is another situation where, like, he came from Kansas State,
right?
And it was like, okay, but he's not coming from Georgia, or you know what I mean? When we talk about Notre Dame, we're like, well, stop taking this ACC trash and do this, and it's like, well, you just took the Big 12's trash. I mean, like you, and I think he made a lot of great plays throughout the game. It just at the end, it was a rookie mistake. It was a freshman mistake. Like, you got to know how much time's on the clock.
Yeah.
You got to know that if nobody's open downfield, throw the ball away and live to die for the last play, which you would have kicked a field goal, maybe not made it, whatever, but at least you give yourself
but at least give yourself a chance to kick a field goal to win it.
Yeah. Well, that moves us to our final game of one of our final must-watch games, the Ole Miss versus LSU. And I'll tell you right now, Jackson Dart was throwing darts in the first half, but both teams, we talked about the quarterbacks going into this game. Both teams were throwing the ball wherever the hell they wanted, but it was big play or die. What did you think about this game?
Yeah, I loved it. And you had the superstars out. You had Shaq there. You had Justin Jefferson, all alumni for LSU there at the game. We all knew, we talked about this on Friday, that this was, playing at Tiger Stadium is going to be a tough one, and it looked like early that, Ole Miss was going to just kind of run away from this game. But, that Nussmeier, he was throwing darts too as well. And, some of the play calling, again, we go back to some of the play calling at the end, they kick a field goal in overtime, and then they just go right down the field. And, we, as Notre Dame fans, we don't care for Brian Kelly, but you know what? He always has his teams ready to play on Saturday night. That 12-0, now 13-0 on Saturday night as a coach there at LSU. I mean, they just kept battling back, and, typical, Lane Kiffin, they let them keep playing, and their defense is kind of. I mean, the front end is really good, but their secondary is not very good, and they just totally, let them keep, playing kept them in the game, and they end up winning at the end.
Yeah, I actually think that when you look at this game, Ole Miss was the better team for sure. I think Ole Miss had them all game. I just think they made stupid mistakes. The fumble and the interception. And, I mean, you got to capitalize on Garrett Newsom's 2 interceptions as well, and he didn't. I just
Right.
think that they had chances to put this game away, and they didn't, and they could have took the crowd out of it because it seemed like they were going to. But then it would just always seem like when Ole Miss would do something good, then LSU would come down and throw a deep ball and catch it. It's like, come on, just get a stop.
Yeah.
I mean, that interception that Jackson Dart throws, that's not a Heisman throw. That's not. Like,
No.
It was way behind the wide receiver. It's in like, there was like 5 LSU players and 3 Ole Miss, all in the same spot.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not a good throw.
No.
The fumble and
Yeah, there was 7 players around that ball.
Yes, it just was. It was
7.
And I don't know where, when the numbers go the way that it does, where you think your player's gonna come up with the ball. I mean, don't get me wrong. You hear like some of these NFL quarterbacks talk about it's all about percentages, and when it's my guy versus another guy, that's over 50% because he's gonna win it. It's like, okay, yes, but it's 1-on-1.
Yeah.
Not when it's 4 against 3 or 5 against 2. Like,
right. Yeah. When there's 5 players on the opposite side of the ball, and you only have 2 down there, yeah, it ain't gonna look good.
But I think the play of the game is that last throw in regulation with Nussmeier's throw. I mean, that ball couldn't have been in a better place. It had to be exactly where it was for them to catch that touchdown to tie it up. It was an amazing throw. I think Garrett played really well in this game. I think Jackson Dart played really well as well. I'm not going to put that against him, but I just feel like that throw was perfect. And then you kick a field goal and it's, well, now if we score a touchdown, we win. And well, with that LSU crowd the way it was like, they're going to go for that. And they did. And they won. Yeah. Unfortunately, I think this now puts Ole Miss out looking in for the playoffs. And then I think it puts LSU back into the conversation, which they were right on the edge of it, but now they're back in the conversation. They both have some big games coming up. So, and being in the SEC, just because you win this game doesn't mean it's over. Like older Oregon, kind of like they almost locked their ticket into the playoff after yesterday's win. But like now these guys, you're still going to have some bigger games, but Brian Kelly outcoached Lane Kiffin in this game. And that is so surprising as a Notre Dame fan, because I just remember waking up on Sunday mornings after Saturdays and being like, oh, they outcoached Brian Kelly. And it's like, maybe he's got to go in there. He wins 10 games. He's known for that every year. He wins 10 games, but this team it's a little different. If they can keep it up and keep playing the way they are, I can see them making the playoffs and doing a little damage.
Right. Yeah, most definitely. I mean, and that's the thing too, is that let's see what they do next week. It just seems like some of these teams in the SEC, or even in college football, they have a really good game and then they have a letdown game. I mean, Alabama is kind of one of them. Like last week, they play good against Georgia and then they get, spanked by Vanderbilt. So it'd be interesting to see next week how LSU responds to this big win.
Yes. Well, we can talk about the rest of the NCAA. On Friday, Arizona State took down Utah. I called that. I thought even Cam Rising playing, I thought that was a game that I don't know if that Utah team is as good as what they say they are. You also had Penn State barely beating USC 33-30 in overtime. USC cannot finish games. They can't run the ball, so they can't finish. They'll never survive in the Big Ten if they're going to want it, if they can't do that. Georgia beats Mississippi State 41-31. This was a 28 or something point spread. Georgia did not live up to that one. Alabama sneaks by South Carolina 27-25. The onside kick gets recovered by South Carolina. They go down. They got to have a 2-point conversion, and he threw it in the 5th row. So didn't help. Tennessee goes into overtime with Florida, wins 23-17. They could have kicked a field goal to win it. Instead, they scored a touchdown, and it was one of those things where it's like, you're lucky it went your way. Clemson beats the hell out of Wake Forest 49-14. Notre Dame beats the piss out of Stanford, and if Notre Dame wants to think about the playoffs, they got to do this to a lot of teams to show that they're that good. 49-7. Iowa State beats West Virginia 28-16. It looked like it was going to go all West Virginia's way in the first quarter, and then Iowa State came back and pulled it out. BYU put some respect on their name. 41-19 against Arizona. Boise State handles Hawaii 28-7. Probably not many people watched since it was at like 1 a.m. Kansas State pulls out a win against Colorado 31-28. The biggest story of that one, Travis Hunter goes out in the first quarter. Missouri bounces back 45-3 over Mass. Pittsburgh pulls it out 17-15 against Cal. And Illinois goes into overtime with the 1-5, or at the time 1-4 Purdue team, 50-49 when Purdue went for a 2-point conversion. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I kind of get it. You're 1-4 for Purdue, and you know what? You're not probably going to be playing for much, a whole lot this year. But I kind of question because they're, they weren't stopping Illinois, but they weren't stopping. Illinois wasn't stopping you. I mean, they 2 plays and they were in. So I mean, they had the momentum going. I just think that maybe the coach was thinking, which that coach was the DC at Illinois 2 years ago. So I kind of question. I guess he was just like, well, let's see if we can go for 2 and get a win and get out of here. Or yeah, I kind of questioned that.
Well, I agree, and I think after this week we kind of saw that Tennessee escapes barely, Alabama escapes barely. Those 2 teams actually play each other next week, and I think that's a playoff eliminator. Whoever loses there, they're done. They're done. They're just not. If Alabama wins that game, there still has a chance. And I think with the beating Georgia, they still have a chance. But with Tennessee, if you lose this game, you're done. You barely beat a Florida team that is not good. They're not. Right. And they had a backup quarterback, but it was a great week of college football. But let's move on to the NFL. Going into the NFL, we got our must-watch games. We're going to start out with the first one, Chargers versus Broncos. Justin Herbert should be in better shape since they had a bye last week, but that defense of the Broncos is the second best defense in the NFL. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, I liked it. This should be an interesting game. The Chargers are coming off a bye last week. The Broncos are coming off that 34-19 win against the Raiders. Both teams are battling injury. I think the key is going to be the offensive line for Denver. That Wanamaker, or I think it's either one of Wanamaker or Posey, is not playing. So they're going to have to plug in another offensive lineman, to block for Nix. So that's going to be a big deal. But the Chargers, they have Joe Alt out, I think he's going to play, but he's banged up, and Rashawn Slater, they're both banged up. I mean, I think the X factor is going to be the Denver defense. The Denver defense is going to have to come to play and put pressure on the quarterback. It's slipping my mind.
Bo Nix?
No, quarterback for Chargers.
Justin Herbert.
Justin Herbert. They're going to have to put a lot of pressure on him because he's banged up too. He's got a bad hand on him as well. So, and Bo Nix, he's been playing better. It just seemed like he's been playing better and better each week. So this is going to be one of my betting games. So I don't want to tell a lot of information.
Yeah, and I think for this game too as well, you got to know too that the Chargers got the 5th overall defense. So you got the 2 versus the 5th on the defense side. You have a rookie quarterback with Bo Nix. Justin Herbert's not playing the way he is. I also just don't think he's missing Keenan Allen. He's missing Mike Williams. They just didn't go out and go get the wide receivers after they lost them. So I think that's one of the things that you kind of need to be conscious of, because if you can't throw the ball, well, then they're going to stack the box and you're not going to be able to run the ball. I don't care, Harbaugh. Like, I don't care. You can put 10 guys in that box, or you can put 5 or 6. If you can't run the ball, you're not going to win this game. So I do like that. Joey Bosa is not playing for the Chargers this week. That's also a big one. But I agree with you. Denver has to also run the ball. They haven't got – when they run the ball really well, that allows Bo Nix to kind of open up the passing. When they can't run the ball, Bo Nix has to do more with his feet. That's scary for running back, or for a quarterback to be running the ball as much as he does. I just think it's going to come down to like what defense performs better, which ones gets the takeovers or the turnovers. And I think this game will be a good game. It's surprising. If you would have told me a Broncos and Chargers game going into this year is a must-watch game, I'd have been like, okay, yeah, okay. But it is. I mean, I think Denver's playing, and they're winning right now. Little tidbit: next week, Broncos play the Saints. First time
Mm,
that Sean
yeah.
Payton is back in New Orleans after his big run. So, but yes, that's a great game. That is also going to be one of my games I'm betting. So we'll move on to the next game. Lions versus Cowboys. Goff, last time he played, he threw a perfect game since they were on a bye last week. And can the Cowboys get that running attack going again with Rico? I'm not even going to try that
No,
last.
no. Yeah.
Yes. But what do you think about this game?
It should be good. I think should be another good game. Like I said, the Lions are coming off a bye. This seemed like Dak. Their defense is struggling. Dallas's defense is struggling. I mean, I don't know if that linebacker is going to be playing this week. That's another one that slipped my mind. Parsons, he's banged up. Their defense is not very good. I mean, they held their own against Pittsburgh, but I don't think Pittsburgh's offense is very good. I mean, they rely too much on Justin Fields, and they just can't get the ball down the field. So,
well, and I'll say this. So, interesting fact that I heard on ESPN a couple of days ago is that the Lions, every team that they've played this year, the following week, that team loses.
oh wow!
And the interesting fact about that is you know why? Because they get beat the hell up. This Lions team is nitty gritty. They want to run the ball down your throat. Well, guess what Dallas can't do? They did it against the Giants, don't get me wrong, but they can't stop the run. They can't. So with that double backfield with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, you're going to have to stop the run if you're the Cowboys. And I just don't think you're going to. Oh, wait. So if you do start stopping the run, they got the wide receivers. I think Detroit's got to play up to their game. Don't let the atmosphere of the being in Dallas change it. Win this game off the bat. But I do. And it's a must win for both teams. Because the Cowboys, if they want to stay in this division, to possibly win the division, with Commanders playing the way that they are right now, they're going to have to win this game.
Yeah.
Now, on the other side, the Lions have to win this game to stay up with Minnesota. Minnesota's still undefeated. They're on a bye this week. Like, you guys can't lose because then you're going to put yourself a couple games back, right? Got to win this game to stay competitive in this. I think the NFC North is the best conference in the NFL right now. I mean, every team has a winning record right now. So it's just, if you want to stay and want to win the division, you're going to have to win this game. I do think they do this, though. But it'll be a great matchup. We'll see what this Cowboys team can be. They're so hit or miss. It's unfortunate for them.
Yeah, most definitely. It's just that they just, I mean, they beat Pittsburgh last week, but they had to throw a fourth down attempt to a receiver in the end zone for it to win. I mean, he threw 3 interceptions last week. Dak did. He's got to play better. If he doesn't play better than that, Detroit might run away from this game. It might be another Saints game where they just run away from them.
Very true. Well, that takes us to our final must-watch game. It's actually the Monday night game. A really good game matchup between the Bills versus the Jets. This is a division game. The Jets will have their first game with a new coach and new offensive play caller, and the Bills need to rebound after 2 losses. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting game. Let's see how the Jets respond. Let's see how Aaron Rodgers responds to the new play caller and to this new coach. The rumor was that that Woody Johnson didn't talk to him about this when they fired Saleh. Okay. I'll play along. But it just seems like let's see how they respond. They're going to be at home, so this is going to be a good test. And then Buffalo. What Josh Allen you getting? What team are you getting? The team that played that was started out 3-0, or the team that kind of shot themselves in the foot last week, and they just didn't seem like I think after he got hurt, they said it was a upper body injury. I think he was concussed because he didn't play very well after that. So let's see what Buffalo team comes out to this week.
I definitely agree, and I think the Jets have to get Breece Hall involved. I mean, do we forget how good he was last year? I mean, he was that run down the sideline, and I have clips in my head of remember watching him having a great year last year, and he's just not a name now. He's not a name, and if that's because Aaron Rodgers is now the quarterback, come on. To help the passing game, you got to run the ball. So I think they got to get Breece Hall involved. And on the other side for Buffalo, you got to throw the ball better. I mean, you got to have better. And I do believe he was concussed. That's been the rumor mills for sure that he was concussed, not an upper body injury. I don't know. I still think the play calling at the end of that game was just, whether he's concussed or not, just hand the ball off. Like,
Yeah.
But I definitely think when you look at that and backtrack a little bit, if he was concussed, that's possibly 2 concussions in 2 weeks. Let's just remember that. The week before, he took that hard hit where they did the fake play or the trick play, and he got smoked and hit his head off the ground, and people were like, "Oh man, that one kind of looks like one." And then now this one, I just let's be careful. Let's keep him protected. He's having a great year without any interceptions. He's got an MVP type of still season, but I think this Jets defense with Sauce Gardner and them, I think they have better DBs than they have wide receivers on the Buffalo side. So if they do, who's stopping? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're gonna throw it to James all day. Like, you got to get the wide receivers more involved. Curtis Samuel has to get more involved in this. But I believe that Khalil Shakir is looking to return. I think it's because it's a Monday night. They're thinking he could be still playing. If he plays, I think it kind of evens it out. If he doesn't play, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and that Jets defense, I mean, they got lit up last week in London. They got to come better prepared to play too. I mean, Sam Darnold's not the next Tom Brady, and he just kind of just picked them apart. So I mean, that secondary, Sauce Gardner's got to have to have a big game too. They got to put some pressure on Josh Allen. And even Minnesota's defense last week made Rodgers look old. So I mean, he's got, like you said, start handing the ball off to Breece Hall, and just get back to what he knows best.
Totally agree. And I mean, that Vikings defense is the best defense in the league right now, but I agree with it. It made Josh Allen look, or not Josh, Aaron Rodgers look real old. And even after the injury and stuff like that, it was like, yeah, let's wrap it up for him. But rest of the NFL, there's some other games that are still good to watch. You have Cardinals versus Packers at the noon slot. You have Colts and Titans, Texans and Patriots, Buccaneers and Saints, Browns and Eagles, and Commanders and Ravens. That one game too was a possibility of being a must watch as well. At the 3 o'clock time, you also have Steelers versus Raiders and Falcons and Panthers. Tonight, you have the Bengals versus the Giants. I think that was supposed to be a predicted really good game when the season started. We'll see how it ends tonight. And then, obviously, like we said on Monday night, you have the Bills and Jets. But let's start with our bets. What do you got for your first bet?
Cardinals versus Packers. Cardinals are coming in, with the big win last week against the 49ers, 24-21. Packers coming off that road win at the Rams, 24-19. The Cardinals are led by Kyler Murray, and the Packers have Jordan Love. Can the Packers contain Kyler Murray? His running and throwing the ball down the field. Also, can Arizona's defense contain Josh Jacobs? I don't know if they can. It's supposed to be a rainy day up in Green Bay, so who knows, what kind of – this might be more of a run game instead of throwing the ball down the field. Keep your eye on the rookie linebacker for Green Bay, Edgerrin Cooper, against the running back for Arizona, James Conner. Arizona is 3-2 against the spread this year, and the Packers and the Cards are 2-0 against the spread as a road dog. So give me the Cardinals in the 4.5.
Yeah, this one makes me nervous just because the Cardinals are so inconsistent. But if you're getting points, it's always good to go with an inconsistent team getting points because maybe they'll surprise you and maybe they just won't lose by more than that they're supposed to. So getting 4. You said 4.5 or 4?
4.5. 4.5. Yeah. And it seems like the road dogs this year, more than or less than 5 points, have been coming in. So that's why I kind of went with the Cardinals getting the 4.5 and taking the Cardinals.
And it's in the NFL this year. It seemed like the getting, not the favorite taking the dogs, but for my first bet, I'm actually taking a dog as well. And I'm surprised on this one, but Commanders getting 7. I'm taking the Commanders in this one because I do believe in Jaden Daniels. I think that he is playing very well. I think that team is playing well, but what Ravens team are you going to get? The last time the Ravens played at home, they put on a beating against Buffalo, right? But can they do this again? I don't know. I think there's Derrick Henry in the running attack, and I mean, that's definitely their MO this year is they're going to run the ball down your throat. But it seems like for some reason they always let teams back into it. And with Jane Daniels playing the way he is, I think they're going to capitalize on it. Getting 7 whole points. I took it at 7. I do see this morning it's at 6.5 now. So I'll take that half a point because you may need it in case they do go down and I can push. But I got the Commanders getting 7.
Yeah, that is kind of surprising that they're getting the 7 because I think Jane Daniels might be the real deal. So I mean,
What?
that's kind of a, and like you said, the Ravens let the Bengals back in the game last. I mean, they didn't let them back in it, but it just seems like they in the fourth quarter they did kind of let their guard down in a majority of these games this year. So yeah, that's a high. They must think that that defense of the Ravens is going to hold Jaden Daniels down. That's kind of surprising.
Totally agree. What do you got for your second bet?
Chargers Broncos. We've talked about this. The Broncos coming off the 34-19 win. Both teams are banged up. I really thought about the under was 34, and I thought, this could be like a 9-6 game. So I thought about taking the under on this game, but I thought, the Broncos are 4-1 against the spread, and the Chargers are 2-1-1 against spread. I think the Broncos are in the right direction. Their defense is playing better, and give me the Broncos, and they're at home, and they're getting 3 at home the way they've been playing. Give me the 3 points, and I'll take the Broncos.
I am on this boat as well. That's my second bet as well, is the Broncos getting 3. I just think right now with the Justin Herbert question mark, I know he got a bye week. Is he healthier? I think that defense of Denver's right now is playing fine-tuned, is playing really good ball. I'm just waiting for, and you never wish on anyone to get hurt, but I just think it could be a game where there might be a hard hit on Justin Herbert, and he might be sitting. And then you're definitely going to wish you're going to have your Denver getting the points. So I also have that as well. What do you got for your third bet?
Bengals versus G-Men. Bengals coming off a heartbreaking loss last week in overtime against the Raiders, or the Ravens, and they're needing a win really bad. The Giants coming off that big road win, out west against Seattle last week. They're also going to be playing without Malik Neighbors, their wide receiver. He's in concussion protocol, which there was a report that he went to a Travis Scott concert this week. I'm just kind of wondering why players go to or do things sometimes when the optics doesn't look good. But that's beside the point. Cincinnati's defense has given up the second most points in the league this year per game, and second to last, and they're second to last in sacks. Oh boy, which sounds good for Daniel Jones. The Bengals are 2-3 against the spread this year, and the Giants are 3-2. So give me the G-Men, and I'll take the 3.5 points.
3.5. Nice. I will say for this one, the Giants have looked decent. I mean, I just don't know what. I agree with the neighbor situation. Like, he went to a Travis Scott concert, and then he had a couple weeks ago, maybe Tua was at something after having his, and it's like, okay, well, it just doesn't look good. Like, you're not going to do anything in hiding anymore. It's not Michael Jordan back in the 90s where you could go to the casino and nobody knows.
Yeah.
Like, we know now. So for my final bet, I have the Jets. What? The Jets money line. I'm taking the money line against Buffalo. Now, if you want to play it a little safe, grab the it's now at -2, but at yesterday when I was looking at so it was or grab the 2.5 points on this one. There's a stat out there and I forgot to write it down, but where new coaches come in and the team is like really highly, they win more than they lose. Like it's a big difference. I just think this is a game where the Jets have a new quarterback or a new coach in there. They supposedly love this coach. This is a good coach for them. The offense play calling, I think they're gonna run the ball just because it is a short week with a new play call. I think it's a Monday night at the Jets Stadium at home. I like the Jets on this one. I think that's a bounce back for them. I don't know what this Buffalo situation is going on, and it's not about a bad play call or whatever. I just don't think they have the right players to be that team. I think they had a good little success in the beginning, but I don't know if they can keep that up. I like the Jets money line, or if you want to be safe, get the 2.5 on this one.
I totally agree on. it just seems like the teams always when after they fire a coach, whether it be in football or basketball or baseball, it seems like that they have a different perspective and the players just respond. So this I agree. I think the Jets will come out and they need this victory. It's a division game. So you lose at home again in a division game, that puts you behind the eight ball really quick.
Well, and final thing about that one is if the Jets win, they're tied for first in that division. After all this controversy, all this,
Yeah.
they're tied for first with the Bills. If the Bills win, they obviously grow their lead a little bit. But I mean, it's crazy to hear that they fired a coach and they're one win away from the lead in the division.
Yeah.
So, but that is our recap of the NCAA and our NFL must watch this week. We will be back on Wednesday recapping the NFL and talking about what's coming up this upcoming week. Because guess what? Another great week of college football is coming ahead of us, and the NFL is always exciting as usual. But if you like what we're doing, subscribe, comment, share. We are on YouTube, so you can subscribe to that. But if going into this like Wednesday, if there's any questions you want us to talk about, this is a great episode for us to kind of bring it up. So comment on there to throw it out there. But we want to thank all our fans for listening. You guys have a great NFL Sunday, and we'll be back on Wednesday.